Thank you so much for that brilliant opening, Anurag. It was amazing. It was anecdotal, which kept us all glued. We were not distracted. We were listening to you. There were moments of good humor. There was a lot of storytelling in that, and I've heard you before as well, and it was a great opening, and thank you for that. And it was pretty candid, if I can say that, on all the books that you recommended. Some of them I've read, and thank you for that. Okay, so on that note, let's get started. So as ahead of what's ahead, why prepared brands outperform. A little bit about myself. I am supposed to be the Chief Marketing Officer of Newgen Software, but really, is that even a role, CMO? Well, my role, honestly, is like something like a signal hunter, maybe a corporate astronomer, because most of the time what I do is I sit with my team and try to hunt for signals. What is probably a customer doing, asking? What are the emerging trends, technologies? What is competition building? What are analysts saying? So many such things. We are always trying to look for some signals. And what I feel is that maybe we can't stop a storm, we can't stop a torrential rain, but we can definitely look at some clouds and figure out what's going to happen in terms of weather. And that's the essence of being prepared. And today, every marketer who has been prepared or has looked into the past trajectory and thereafter worked on the scheme of things, they're the ones who are probably doing well and are secure in their space, because it's not about prediction, it's about having the ability to sense the future and be prepared for it. Of course, there are certain things which is beyond our control, but that's the essence of it. And why am I always talking about Newgen Software? Because that's the thought of our organization, that's the thought of the organization I represent, and it's always about staying ahead of the curve, doing the right kind of investments now to be prepared for what's lying ahead, and to be eventually successful for the end consumer / customer, and also as an organization. But here I will also come to the marketing context of staying ahead of what's ahead. So yes, I'm Runki Goswami, and this is my topic, and this is what I'll be talking about. Now, the AV that you saw was of Samrat Yantra, or commonly known as Jantar Mantar in Jaipur. We have a Jantar Mantar in Delhi as well. So when we were doing this brand campaign, ahead of what's ahead, it's a campaign which is still live. And why do I call it a campaign? It's because it's leaving footmarks at every element that we are trying to showcase. It's a camping event, rather. I would rather call it like that than use the regular parlance of a campaign. But when we were trying to look for a metaphorical representation of ahead of what's ahead, and we were looking into Indian architectures and all of that, this Samrat Yantra stood strong, tall, big. So when I was evaluating, or rather evaluation is a very heavy word, I'm not supposed to be evaluating big things, but nonetheless, when I was looking into it, it was like really a clock to tell, something which is like 2:15 in the afternoon. What is so big about it? Why should it be a metaphorical representation of ahead or what's ahead? Well, then I got to know this is not about telling time. It is about the Maharaj Savai Singh, Jaipur, that is Maharaj Savai Singh II, 300 years back. He was more obsessed with patterns. He was more obsessed with movements. He wanted to look into the sky and decipher the planetary movements or whatever it is before anybody else said it. So no AI, no dashboard, no cloud, but then clearly being ahead of what's ahead. So it stood so strong with the metaphor and Newgen's DNA of staying ahead of what's ahead that we went ahead, we filmed in the Samrat Yantra of Jaipur, and Jantar Mantar commonly called, and that's what it is. And the AV that you saw was Ashish Vidyarthi doing the voiceover there. So this is where, and what Maharaj Savai Singh Jaipur did at that time, he was asking questions which most CEOs, entrepreneurs, marketers are asking today. What lies ahead? How can we be prepared? Okay, so if we have to go a little more deep, so what was the king 300 years back? What was he doing? What are we doing today? It's like, what are the early signal detection systems to stay ahead of what's ahead? How do we, as a marketer, how do we prep ourselves? Are we observing right? Like, are we just busy talking? Are we observing of the signals? Are we listening to what the customer is saying? More than all the success that we would have had with the customer, are we listening to his pain areas as well? Are we listening to his bottlenecks? Are we reading the analysts right? Are we observing that is? And interpretation. You're sitting on a load of information, but information is in abundance, but interpretation is scarce. So are you able to interpret the information? That is very important again. Then are you preparing right? Because preparation for everybody means very different. It is to each his own, but are you preparing right? You've observed well, you've interpreted, but what are you doing in terms of being prepared to present your case? Have you read well? Have you worked? Have you done your homework? Have you anticipated questions that will come? Have you looked into numbers? So many things that call for preparation. And then finally, after preparation comes the transition. You've done everything. And there's a transitionary phase that happens in every organization, every role of a marketer, and all of that. So as I've written over here, the future doesn't arrive suddenly. It gives you signals. And as a CMO, as a marketer, are you the right signal hunter that helps you stay good at your job, that helps you perform well, and that helps you justify the role of a marketer in the organization? Because if you're not a part of the growth trajectory of the organization, if your narrative, if your storytelling is not yielding numbers or not getting the right eyeballs, then there is definitely a question mark. And that comes with a lot of homework, a lot of research behind the scenes. So are you prepared for that? Well, this is very close to my heart, and I keep on talking about it, is how was Newgen built? Well, how many of us know of product companies of India that have stood the test of times? If you go back to the Y2K and all of the entire transformation that was happening, India was big on services. We have some service giants out of India, but product companies? So it was in 1992, that time when our chairman, Mr. Divakar Nigam, he was aspiring for a product company. The world was going services, India was going services, and he said, nothing doing in India, we need to have a product organization. And that is a vision that he held, and today we are a 33-year-old product company in India. I'm pretty sure you can try and count names in your, try and count on your fingertips how many product organizations. There are not many. So that's one. Process, when people were reimagining process, and at that time, our chairman invested in business process management, BPM, which later on became a big transformation thing. It was about the vision that he had. Then people are imagining process. We were already into the transformation area, and then we became the BPM provider. Digitization, content, information, what you call as information is today an asset for an enterprise in the form of content. So, well, ECM, Enterprise Content Management, we started off then, and today we are undisputed leaders in this space. That's all about his vision. And of course, the next wave about AI and agentic and all, low code. So again, it dates back to the early 2000s when we were already there. And it's not that I'm trying to talk about Newgen because I work for Newgen, but the thing is that I am so enamored by our chairman's vision that it all the more instills the element of, Runki, are you ahead of the game? Are you well-read? Are you prepared for the changes that might just come? So if you're not prepared, you're not doing your job well. So this is really comes from the conviction and the element of intrigue that he's built around about establishing a successful product company in India, which is now global, and we work across 70 countries. So then how prepared are we as marketers? This is my Open question to every marketer over here. Do you know exactly how your buyers will discover brands these 3 years from now? Have we really answered this question? Have we introspected? Have we retrospected? Do we know the role AI will play in enterprise buying decisions 2 years from now? Have we thought through, or are we just doing a regular checklisting of work? Anurag was talking about Jugaad, the makeshift arrangement, what we call. Are we just doing checklisting? Have we looked into these futuristic questions? Do we have answers for this? Are we actively building capabilities today for customer behaviors that don't exist yet? We don't know, because we are so busy looking into customer success and all the hunky-dory and interesting things that they're talking about, or their achievements, that we've forgotten to ask the bottlenecks, the dissatisfaction areas. We're trying to even more sell, cross-sell, upsell, do all those things, but are we trying to interpret behaviors which still don't exist? Well, of course, there is ChatGPT, there's Gemini, there is Cloud, and all of that. So we've done our SEO optimization, we are doing our LLM optimization, but are our marketing strategies good enough to handle what's going to happen in the next 3 years, or even maybe 6 months from now? Because every day we wake up to a new technology trend. Are we prepared for the disruption? Are our marketing strategies enabled enough to help the organization hit it in one go? We don't have answers. So are we prepared? Okay, and there is always this preparedness gap, because when we do a marketing campaign, we are looking at impressions, clicks. We are looking at pipeline, demand gen. We are looking into a whole set of data which we call as KPIs, which is mandatory. Of course, we need KPIs, because KPIs tell us where we are. But one thing to observe and note and interpret and prepare is KPIs are essentially data of the past. How are we utilizing the KPIs, the numbers of today that will give us better numbers for the future? Are we, again, I'm coming back to the same thing, are we even thinking of maybe competitors who are hiring aggressively in a different way? Are we looking at emerging trends, or are we listening to those unspoken words of our customers? What is it? So while it is interesting to look into the KPIs, which is the past data, which is a reflection of how your campaign or anything that you would have done performed, but then what is it that is missing? What is that info that we need? So if you're prepared enough, you will be having decent answers that will help you wade or navigate or maneuver through the issues or the crisis moments that you might face as a marketer in the future. Preparedness is the key. Okay, so how can you get prepared? 3 salient features in my life that I do. How do I try and stay ahead of the curve? How prepared can I be if I am Runki Goswami, the marketer? If I'm Runki Goswami, the CMO of Newgen? And thereafter, how can I help myself and the organization? And when I say organization, I also mean the team, my marketing team, that is. So certain things that I have inculcated in my life. And again, Anurag is not here. Like, again, it's the same thing that I'm saying. Read, and read beyond your category. It's not just about reading your competition logos, what the competition is doing. No, that helps, of course. That's our job. That helps. But we have to read beyond categories. Read about B2C. Most of my B2B marketing ideas are inspired out of B2C campaigns and all the success stories there, or even D2C, or so many other genres there. So read. So read outside the category. Sources worth following. I do a lot of HBR reading. I do a lot of MIT Tech Review reading. I read McKinsey reports, Gartner, Forrester, but when I say reports, don't go into just the reports. There's a lot of other content that McKinsey produces. I read through Stracheri's CB Insights, which helps me a lot. I also read the behavioral science publication, which has nothing to do with marketing. It is about human psychology. It is more about science, how the brain works, and I love Lenny's newsletter, which really helps me get those marketing instincts and helps me stay ahead of the curve. Okay, sometimes we do a campaign and we immediately roll out a survey. Great, of course, we need to roll out the surveys. We need to ask customers, prospects, how they are feeling, what is the pulse, if we've done some implementation over there, and the survey does help us to capture some moment of truths, all of that. But really, is survey the everything? I would request the customer success team to not just harp on the case studies, the success stories, which is very important, but also look into the elements they're not saying, their dissatisfaction moments, that is. I would request sales. Of course, you're trying to push through a sales, but also try and understand their uncomfort or discomfort zones. What are the bottlenecks? I would also maybe read through analyst newsletters. You know, it's just not about reading, it's also reading in between lines. There are some data which we don't understand. So go after the data again and again till you understand what it is trying to say, what it means. And the more you read, the more, it's like you see a movie sometimes and you don't get the essence, and you see 2, 3 times, 4 times, then you understand, oh, okay, maybe this is what it is meant. So these are certain things. Please, survey is a very interesting thing to do, easy thing to do. Not easy exactly. When you have to implement a survey, there's a whole lot of 9 yards that goes behind the scene. But then service is not the only thing. Go beyond that. That'll help you stay prepared. Then, of course, we again have KPI dashboards and so many dashboards. But do we have a signal dashboard for ourselves? And that's a difficult thing to obtain, signal dashboard. But if we marketers can crack the mechanism of making a signal dashboard, what customers search for, content consumed, emerging problems, and if you have the data, can you create a signal? What is it signaling at? Are they already thinking of something different? Is there something coming up on the anvil? Do you already see some change there happening? So have a signal dashboard. What are the market signals? While this was about customer, what are the market signals? For all you know, analysts are talking about something very different and they're already triggering a change. And if you get the signal right, this can get communicated to your relevant respective product teams and other visionaries, and you can do something about it way before the change would have happened. Technology signals, what investments are being made in what kind of technology? Who's investing where? This is not a data point that will be in your customer logo reports or anything, no. You have to do more of study around it, but all the study that you do, you're going to derive signals out of it, and that should be a part of your signal dashboard. And trust signals, because when any buyer is moving into a room, the buyer has already made up its mind basis the trustworthy elements that the buyer would have gone through and joined the dotted lines. And what I mean is that the buyer would have spoken to analysts, buyer would have read about you, buyer would have done so many things. And so how well are you informed about the credibility, who the customers is listening to? Are you showing up at the right time, right place? What are the signals around it? So this is the thing that I started doing, and it has helped me. Of course, we being Indians, again, as Anurag was saying that, the jugaad, the makeshift, there's always there. It happens, but then you have to do that. You have to checklist your regular rigmarole. But then how do you be prepared for what's coming? Because someday or the other, you will need the signal dashboard to be able to present it to your management and say, this is now what we should do to be able to stay ahead of the curve, and this is how we should prepare. So the future rarely arrives at a surprise. It usually arrives in a pattern. It is visible to those who are watching for it. If you have an eye for detail, you will definitely get the signals much, much beforehand. Well, the new B2B marketing mandate, we've already spoken about the invisible buyer journey. By the time we are engaging with the buyer has already made up its mind. Thought leadership as an advantage. Have the best of thought leadership possible. I know that it is LLM world, AI world, and we are deriving a lot of content out of ChatGPT, Claude, all of that. Fabulous. It does help us being productive. But it is like garbage in and garbage out. If you are not sure about the quality of content, if you don't have a hold on your thought leadership pieces, you can keep on dishing out content. It's not going to give you anything. So we have to understand the power of thought leadership and thereafter utilize it in our work. Of course, AI is changing discovery. Earlier, it used to be show up on the first page of Google. Of course, we do have to show up on the first page of Google, which is fine, but are we showing up elsewhere also through other formats? Because it's AI everywhere. If they're typing about us, whether it's an LLM, wherever it is AI telling the customer that, yes, Runki is trustworthy, and therefore you should go to her? So whatever training you would have done, the data that you would have trained to feed into your LLMs, is it that good quality that it is showing the trustworthiness of you as a brand, of the organization, and everything is linked thereafter. So it's not, B2B marketer is not just about demand generation, we are more about the growth story. And we, of course, have to be a market educator, a trust builder, and a category creator. Fair enough? So every organization needs its own Samrat Yantra. Well, for us, Samrat Yantra is Newgen's. We've already kind of laid our foot there. The brand film on Samrat Yantra actually echoes the ethos of the organization. But what's your Samrat Yantra? What is your metaphor to talk of preparedness? You know what, let's take an example of Netflix. Is Netflix successful today because of other streaming channels, OTTs? No. Netflix is successful because the way they were prepared after looking into elements like internet bandwidth, about understanding instant access access to content by consumers. It was not inspired by Hollywood by any chance, not at all. Any reason how Uber became Uber that it is today, its data point was not looking into taxis, no. It was about GPS, it was about telecommunications, it was about digital payments. That was the category. So as I was earlier saying, read beyond your category. So these are all examples that I can give. So you as a marketer, you as a brand, you as an organization, what is your Samrat Yantra? What is the inspirational point for you? How do you want to stay ahead of what's ahead? And on that note, I would say that, come back to the Newgen point, when the world was talking about services, Newgen was talking about products. When the world was talking about process, well, the world was talking about not even talking or reimagining process, we were deep into process transformation. When the world was talking about just information, we were already into the enterprise content management space, which is an enterprise asset today. And today we are orchestrating intelligent enterprises. We've even gone beyond the regular parlance of artificial intelligence. We are bringing everything together, which is deeply embedded with AI and connecting people, processes, data, everything. And we are the orchestration layer. And with most of the banks, most of the insurance providers, we work a lot with government, we work with other enterprises across the globe, and that's who we are today. And this company, of course, and I continuously say ahead or what's ahead is inculcated in my DNA now, and the power of preparedness is humongous. So let's be prepared. And on that note, wishing everybody a very good day, and thank you, BW, for giving me the opportunity to come here and share my sense. Thank you.